Everyone today to our positive performance framework. So really appreciate everyone joining the call today and giving up their lunchtime. Nice to see some familiar faces and some faces of the past as well. So it's kind of seen from people's names there. The positive performance framework we're going to walk through today. What I would say is if you've got any questions, hold on to them until we finish up at the end, and then I'll gladly answer any questions. And if there's anything else, Jenny and I, who works with me at Inspirational Coaching Limited, we'll hang on the back and any other personal questions that you want to ask from that point of view. So let's start to walk through the positive performance framework. So to give you a real flavour of how it works and kind of what's involved within it. So let's start having a look at that from that perspective. So if we start to have a look at the positive performance framework, in theory, the framework is made up of multiple different parts to really help colleagues from onboarding right through their career satisfaction and really enjoying working for that company. Today, we're going to start to break those down and really open up what is the positive performance framework, where does it fit, and what parts can I take from my organisation or work with us, which we work with a load of organisations around different parts, how it all fits together. So who are you speaking to today? Who are you listening to from Inspirational Coaching Limited? So I'm Stephen Adams with over 30 years experience in leadership, mediation, kind of investigations, and that cultural transformation. So the area that we specialise in Inspirational Coaching Limited is 5 pillars. So what we work on is facilitation, mediation, leadership, coaching, and modernising HR policies. So looking very futuristic, and actually how we can help organizations move forward to be more productive, colleagues greater engaged, and really kind of make it rich for both the colleague and the organization. Everything we do, so we do training courses and also one-to-one work with colleagues, but everything we do is accredited either by CPD or ILM programs. So we're really proud that we're an approved organization and credibility in what we do. We work with a multitude of also consultants that specialize in certain areas that we deploy to organizations that actually really meet those needs for that company. So what I'd like to do first of all is just on the chat function, which are the kind of on our teams, is just your own words and your views. Why change your current role profiles, onboarding, appraisal approach, those kind of things? Why would you want to change them? Why do you want to change to a more modern approach? Why would it be important to you? So just to have on the chat function, I'll just stop sharing the screen for a moment, but just on the chat part, why would you change your current role profiles, onboarding and appraisal approach? So I'd just love to hear on the kind of the chat function there, what people would kind of view of why would you change them? So I just kind of look forward to, I've had a couple of other people emailing already, so I've got some other views, but just why would you change your current role profiles, onboarding and appraisal system? So why would you just use that chat function? Brilliant. So hello, Kirsty. Great to see you from that point of view. So let's just kind of get that up. So Kirsty, we've got here. So we just got on those. So role profiles aren't used currently, just trying to change them to make them more readable, useful terms of where this role could take you in the future. Yeah, brilliant. And I think the bit there, Kirsty, people just forget that that role profile is actually that encyclopedia document where we help that colleague really move forward and also bringing about consistency. So around performance reviews, which we see are inconsistent, but we want to help that colleagues and set them up to win. So yeah, really great point. So thank you, Kirsty, from that point of view. So I'll just go down. Got some more coming in from Shadia. So Shadia is just typing now as well. But any other views why we should change those from the perspective? So we've got on there. So Eva, there is always ways to make things simpler and easier to digest, not only for ourselves, but also for our colleagues. Yeah, we want to make things easy and simple rather than be tied up in paperwork and problems and issues. So yeah, really great, Eva. Ricky, great to see you on board here. I want to create a better onboarding process for new employees to come on board this year. Yeah, we've got to really, we look at some stats in a minute about onboarding. We can really welcome colleagues and make them feel at home and stay with us. But you'll be amazed in a minute where we look at some stats around the onboarding process. If we get it wrong, the damage it can do. So Shadia there, so ensuring that all staff feel like their JDs are up to date and in line with what they're currently doing. Ensure that the job JDs reflect their role and salary. Great. Yeah, it becomes incredibly demotivated, and I've been there as well when people are being measured on a role profile that actually isn't relevant or doesn't align to benefits or doesn't align to the company. So people get a bit lost with it. Yeah, really good. Kirsty there again. So we've revamped our HR onboarding process, Ricky, but now we need to stretch this to see what happens when they leave HR. So yeah, really good. Great point there. And I love the emoji there as well, Kirsty. So I think we know actually if we can get the start of welcoming colleagues and then through that kind of career process, it makes a huge difference. So let's have a dip in now about actually how's the policy look, how does it work, and what I'll do is if you just hold back your questions and then I'll take them at the end, but let's just really kind of delve into it a bit more. So we've covered most of the parts already, but let's just have a look at some stats. So, and this is through talent management 360. So 98% of colleagues that recently surveyed felt that appraisals were unnecessary. That wasn't just colleagues that actually were having the appraisal done to them. That was HR colleagues, senior colleagues, etc. Actually, 98%. So doing something every year that takes up probably 3 to 4 months of people's time, probably people just find is irrelevant or unnecessary. 88% of employees believe that their company doesn't do a great job when it comes to onboarding new employees. So that, I mean, that's a very high figure. And then the other part there, people leave. So 17% of employees leave their new job between the first week and the third month of a new job, if that onboarding process is not correct or up to date and making them feel welcome. So let's just think about that in a kind of a monetary term. You've paid for a recruitment agent to get the colleague. You've literally got other colleagues in work going, great, we've got this new colleague that actually can take the workload. We're going to bring them in. We're going to look after them. Actually, we're going to really move forward. And then they leave after a period of time, a short period of time. Then that must demotivate the other colleagues there because they've got to take that workload back on board. So we then create a kind of a vicious circle from that perspective. So the benefits are there. We just need people to understand the benefits and move away from those kind of draconian policies. So our view at Inspirational Coaching Limited, we really believe one of the Stephen Covey 7 habits about creating a win-win culture. That's a win for the colleague and a win for the organization. What we wanted to do here is rebalance the kind of performance process. Whereas we've seen policies being built up over years that have protected the organisation that don't support the colleague, or vice versa, they've been protecting the colleague but not supporting the organisation's growth or development. So hopefully today you'll see a win-win approach, which is what we're trying to create. The Positive Performance Framework meets all ACAS guidelines and compliant with UK law. So we're really important that anything we do has credibility and actually follows guidelines and rules within the UK. One of our views is that actually the modern framework can look at prevention. So rather than colleagues leaving, rather than conflict, rather than issues, we can look at preventing those. If kind of issues do get out of control or performance is not adequate, then there's a cure. We'll show you how kind of remedy to that today and hold people. The last part there is holding people accountable. So we look at roles and responsibilities. So prevention, cure, and accountability is key within the framework. So I'm not going to open it up to kind of on the chat function. I'm just going to talk it through from this point of view. What are the benefits of changing to a modern performance framework? Why change to those kind of performance framework? So let's just think about it. So first of all, we can see a 25% reduction in conflict. So actually, if we see each year, most of the time through the appraisal system that we see, actually where we see the highest amount of grievances that come out, highest amount of problems, and where people have been forced into or data been made up to force an appraisal system through. What we also see is organisations with a strong onboarding process increase new hire to retention at 82% and increase productivity by 70%. That's not to be laughed at. That's a real high rate. If we're getting onboarding right, we're going to increase retention, but in turn, productivity will go up by 70%. And then the last part there about colleagues staying with us. So employees who attend a structured orientation program are 69% more likely to remain at the company for at least 3 years. Now, we do know that generation X, Y, and Z are more transient, that would move probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years in roles. However, wouldn't it be great if we held on to those colleagues 3, 4, 5 years rather than 1, 2, except with some really good structured orientation, making them feel welcome, some really good structured programs. So just some other benefits of kind of moving away to this more modern performance framework. So greater colleague engagement, earlier resolution, greater well-being and inclusivity, retention. And we know we're in the market of kind of colleagues being recruited, or we've got vacancies, etc. And that's also where we've not looked after our colleagues properly. Improving the recruitment process. We've seen already that it help with productivity, cost savings, colleague development, and then job satisfaction. The benefits outweigh where we're currently sitting in the old systems or old ways. So this is what we start to look at. So a lot of organizations come to us and say, Steve, we want to change, we're nervous. We don't know what we want to move to, would you help us, etc. We don't want to jump feet first into the new kind of framework. Would you help us to influence stakeholders, etc. So what we do with organizations is a 360-degree needs analysis. So this can range from 3 to 5 to 7 days where we work with the organization, usually over a period of a month. But we sit down with them and really work with their stakeholders about where is that North Star? Where would you like to go? Let's really understand the vision and value of the organization. So it gives us a great starting point. And also we'll ask you what the return on investment is. So actually, what would you like to achieve? What would be the benefits? What would be the targets? Where would you like to go with it? We then start to move into our consultative work where we'll actually look at the data that you've got at the moment. So what's the normative data? What good stuff have you got in play that we don't want to throw out? We want to keep, because there will always be good stuff. We look at quantitative data. So what evidence is telling us there is an issue or a problem? It could be employer engagement feedback. It could be staff surveys. It could be people leaving, retention figures, etc. We want to have a baseline of evidence so that actually we can then, when we show you a return on investment, we've got that great baseline. And the last part of that in that phase 2, colleagues really enjoy us speaking to them to have their voice heard. Quite often, actually, there's some small things that colleagues need or would kind of really want or to move forward that we held forums with them to really build up that qualitative data. Now that gives us a great baseline and great evidence, and people feel kind of part of the new process. We would then design your new performance framework, your positive performance framework, and then we set up a deployment strategy over a period of 0 to 3 years. Usually within the first kind of implementation, let's say the first year, or could be months of changing, then you see a 6-month then embedding period, and then we start to look at tailor and tweaking from there to kind of make it more kind of business as usual for you. But we've got to be we've got to have our eyes open. This isn't a quick fix. If you're really going to do some good cultural transformation, actually what we look at is a period of time to really embed it, deploy it, and make people feel as it's business as usual. So I know on the call today you're going, great, Steve, love all that. I know this stuff. Let's have a look at what the positive performance framework is from a cultural transformation point of view. So first of all, we work with organizations looking at role profiles. We've just worked with a really great organisation, really modernising their HR role profiles. We got the colleagues involved. We then followed the vision and values of the organisation, and it was more aligned with stakeholders and requirement. So we look at role profiles. What is it you need? Is it aligned to the strategy? Is it aligned to your vision? Is it aligned to behaviours and also values? Because that's that key starting point. We work with quite a few organisations around their recruitment process. So we've got the role profiles now. We've got really good role profiles. How do we recruit? Actually, the questions we're asking the colleague is more like an interrogation rather than a mutual working respect and winning the colleague over. And we're also not really looking at competencies for colleagues. So we work with you there, also to look at your questions and competency based, but we also work with you around profiling those colleagues. The next part, which we've seen the data already, colleague onboarding. We work with you to look at colleagues once they accept that job offer. Actually, how do we look after them 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before they join you? How do we keep them involved? How do we really keep them updated with the organisation? How do we make them feel welcome from that perspective? Once the colleague joins, we then look at what's called the first 100 days process. How do we really wow that colleague in the first 100 days to really show them this is a great organization? The first 100 days isn't just picked out as a number. What was kind of scientifically seen is over that period of 3 months plus, if you can really win that colleague over and wow them, they are more likely to stay with you 3 years plus. If we don't get it right in the first 100 days, then you're looking at that retention issue. The big one here is then colleague performance. So we've got all the other three kind of strategies in place beforehand. Actually, how do we manage colleague performance? So first of all, we kick out the appraisal system. It's damaging, it's harmful. People make things up to defend their position each year. I've been there from a banking industry. It is a pain. It causes more heartache, more conflict. And then if you put a salary or a bonus on top of that, then it causes even more problems. So what we suggest, and I'm just using an example here, is we align the colleague performance to your strategy, vision and values. So we look at what's called the what's and the hows. So the what the person delivers and also how they behave. We also looking to move back to, which is colleagues from X, Y, and Z require is regular check-ins. We've put on here just quarterly, but we can tailor it to monthly, quarterly, etc. We move away from mid-year point and appraisal. They're just not good enough, and they're harmful, and our colleagues are crying out for regular check-ins. We also work with you on a algorithm scoring process on each check-in. So actually colleagues are aware what's being measured, how the objectives were set, etc. We work with you on an algorithm scoring basis that each time they are scored on an appropriate basis from that perspective, so that actually when you work throughout the year, you can then actually colleagues can see how their performance has grown, what they've worked on, and then from a reward perspective, it becomes easier and it's less emotion taken into it. Whereas the appraisal system or mid-year is 2 points in a year, let's go for it. Whereas we want to bring in a minimum of 4 points in a year, if not more, with regular check-ins. Then the last part here is about career satisfaction. We work with organisations. Once we've got those colleagues on board, we've recruited them well, they've had a really great onboarding, we're managing them well and they're being looked after, then actually what's their career path? What's actually their development? How do they want to move forward? And what we work here, 80% of organisations, colleagues do a good role. We've got to look after that 80% as well. A lot of people just look at their high performers and then spend a lot of time on the 5% underperformers. We want to work with those 80% that want to do a good job, but want to keep increasing their performance. Not necessarily promotion, but it could be sideways moves. It could be more development, greater skill set. So we work with you with really structured career paths. And that also, if we took people's skill sets of today, they're not going to be relevant in 6 months' time or a year's time. They've got to keep moving forward, even if people are happy just to stay in that same role. So that's where we start to look at with the performance framework. Each organization can pick a mix, what they like to work on. And we work with a plethora of companies that we really start to understand what they need from that perspective. The PowerPoint slides today, you'll have a copy of those come out to you, and the video would be loaded onto YouTube, and we'll share that with our clients as well. But if we just break it down, so about role profiles first, clear alignment. Where we've seen already, I think Kirsty mentioned on the chat at the beginning about actually we've got these role profiles, but how are we using them? Clear alignment to actually the organisation strategy and where we want to go. Values and behaviours. We've seen organisations, and the statistics prove organisations that really work on the hows around values and behaviours are usually 30% more profitable. So we want to bring in a what focus for role profile, but how they do the job. I've worked in an organisation before where people were rewarded on the what's, didn't matter how they behaved, etc., damaged other people, but were rewarded in a wrong way. We want to bring in a fair way about rewarding people for their behaviours, but also along what they deliver. So recruitment, yet again, you'll see the word alignment. It comes pretty consistent here. Values and behaviours, where we bring in competency-based questions to really work with you to make sure it's a mutual benefit for you and the colleague. On this part here, recruitment, we want to wow that colleague. We want them mutually to fall in kind of love with us and what we do. We really want to go out of our way to make it a great experience for them. So even if they don't get the job, they've had a great experience and they're going to go and talk about your company in a positive way. The last part on here about recruitment, we do work with organisations around doing their DISC profiling for them. So a behavioural profile review with organisations, which enables them to tailor some more questions to really work with the colleague to make sure they get the right colleague for the right fit. Now, that point of view, what I just want to get across is the DISC doesn't give the job. It enables further questioning to be done in a very safe but with a professional way to do that. The last part on this part, kind of pre-joining the company, is that colleague onboarding. We've said already we really want to wow them kind of 4 or 5 weeks before they join us. That first 100 days in process. And then also we want to allocate a mentor or buddy to them. And the statistics prove that if they have a mentor or buddy, they're 50% higher rate to stay with the company. So we've really thought about kind of scientifically and statistically what things work, and we know they can be straightforward and really easy wins to help you and the colleague. Colleague performance, yet again, there's alignment. Again, it's quite consistent now. Get rid of the appraisal system. It's so damaging. So many expert HRs and colleagues have written about getting rid of appraisal system. Totally agree with them. And then the last part here is we work with organisations about what is a fair reward for people. Is it always monetary, or is it time off? Is it vouchers? Is it wellbeing days, etc.? What's really relevant to those colleagues? So we help you look at kind of from a fair reward perspective. Some organisations we with do it quarterly, some do it annually. It depends on how you would like to reward those colleagues. Career satisfaction. So we've done all that great work. Then we want to make sure that we look at you from a career satisfaction survey about how you do surveys, how you get that rich feedback, how do you do forums with colleagues ongoing to really understand them. How do we then look at their colleagues' capability and skill set? Is it relevant today, but also to the future? How do we keep moving that 80% of colleagues forward? If it makes sense, not just our high performers and underperformers, we want to really work on those 80% as well. And then the last part here is really looking at really well structured development programs for colleagues. The data and statistics prove that if there's a really well structured program, you'll get retention better, colleagues upskill better, and they feel valued within the organization. So you've heard my voice talk through today kind of about and give you the high level kind of performance around the positive performance framework. What I would say is it is pick and mix. You don't have to do everything, but it's where it's relevant for you and the organization to work on. We come in and help you from that perspective to kind of see where you need your help and support. And we also tailor everything that's unique to your organization. We work with some really big organizations, so 16,000 colleagues, down to smaller organizations, charities, etc., which are 4+. So the range of work that we can do to help and support will really start to get you to look at your organization in a different way. So I'm going to pause there today because you've heard my voice talk for the last half an hour, and I'll just open up the floor if there's any questions through the chat function, or if anyone would like to come off on the screen and ask any questions what they've heard so far, or even any thoughts what they've heard so far around it. So I'll just open up the floor now and just pause if there's any questions or thoughts what they've heard today. Or just on mute, Kirsty.
Sorry, always do that.
Hello.
Hello. I've got one question. So something that we want to do is to go more down the performance related pay route. And the reason being that for the benefit, you know our business, Stephen,
Yes.
but just for the benefit of the other people on the call, we've got a strong manufacturing part to our business as well as a technical part. And at the moment, we do a blanket salary increase across the piece. That is grating me a little bit, because I think there's some people where it's driving a culture of entitlement that I'm entitled to get that 5%, whereas the culture that I want is, in the nicest sense, I want people to feel valued and I want our high performance to get more than 5%, but the way that the budget is split, that's what we get. So I was hoping to use like our PDR process, our performance development review process, to almost drive more engagement into that, more value for Extract, and in return we hope to be able to give our employees more performance related pay. So I was just interested, where does that fit in this kind of model?
Yeah, so if we look at it, Kirsty, so we would probably say for an organisation like yours, changing is where we look at how often do you do your performance reviews. We'd look at your objectives, are they what's and how's, to be balanced
Yeah.
and fair, and then also actually what's the documentation of their performance development plans. So let me give an example. We worked with an organisation recently that said we want to do something similar to performance pay. We've looked at the objectives, but the colleagues have written the objectives, not the organisation.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I said earlier about a win-win, the colleagues
Yes.
winning because I've
Yeah.
written objectives. So if I'm managing you, you've written one set of objectives. If I'm managing somebody else, I've got different objectives. I can't be fair on the pay or performance.
Yes.
The part where we've helped that organisation is the personal development plan is a personal separate piece of work. The objectives are delivered by the organisation role profile. They own it and then measure the colleagues by that each time. So, for example, you in manufacturing might use the lean process or a different process that you're measuring the colleagues by. It's not giving the colleagues the free rein to write whatever they want. You are then, this is what you're held accountable to.
Right.
That's what we see in that organisation. And the bit there is colleagues have gone, we know what we're being measured on now. It's fair, it's consistent. Whereas we know when it's not fair and consistent, that's where you get the performance pay review problems.
Right.
Would that make sense? So something like that organisation, they've gone to monthly reviews. So they've got rid of the appraisal, they've gone to monthly to do that. And what we've seen with colleagues there, originally it starts off as an hour, it's gone to 45 minutes per time. But that saves a lot of heartache and problem over the long run.
Brilliant. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And also the other bit I just add on there is a good system where you would keep the evidence documents. We don't do that, but actually what computer system would you use to hold everything as an easy, nice data point as well?
Right.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Thanks, Stephen.
Good. No, thank you, Kirsty. So any other questions or on the chat from what people have heard today, just around the positive performance framework? Any views from today or whatever people have noticed or anything like that? So just wait for a second. Any other kind of comments or views that people have noticed? Cool. So what I'll do is now, so Jenny and I are going to hang on the call to kind of the next 10-15 minutes if people have got any other questions or views, if they'd like to ask it from that perspective. I just want to say a huge thank you for giving up your lunchtime today. Really, really appreciate it, and hopefully it's been valuable. Anything else you need, please kind of message us through LinkedIn, and also you've seen through our website as well. But I wish you all the very best about actually helping your colleagues and performance. You can make some real differences for our colleagues. So I wish you all the very best, and I look forward to catching up with everyone in the new year, and good luck for 2024. So thank you ever so much, everyone. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks, you.
Stephen. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you, Kirsty.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye. Have a lovely
Thank you.
day.